Okay, congratulations, you are a buyer, but you're a buyer in a seller's market. So what do you need to know to make your offer different from others, to include, let's say you're a financed buyer and you want to stick out amongst cash offers. That sounds daunting, and it can be, especially when you're going up against multiple cash offers. So what are some things that you should be thinking about? Stick around to the end, because I'm telling you, I'm gonna give you the biggest golden nugget at the end. It's kind of like a reward for just watching my videos, so stick around. First and foremost, you must get yourself an experienced realtor. You absolutely have to get yourself an experienced realtor. This is not the time to use your brother-in-law because he just got his real estate license. You want to do him a favor. This is not that time, okay? So be checking Zillow reviews, be checking Facebook reviews, ask people around. Make sure that you're actually picking the right person for the job. That's number one. Number two, yes, of course, as a buyer, you want to go into a market and you want to see comps on the house that you like and this, that, the other. I'm not trying to tell you that that the realtor isn't going to get comps on the house that you like, but at the end of the day, in a seller's market, and again, when we're going up against cash buyers, is that the house is worth what somebody is willing to pay for it. So even though the comps suggest that it should list and be sold for $350, well, if a cash buyer is willing to write an offer for $360, that's gonna be your problem, okay? So be willing to potentially pay above list. Be prepared, be educated in this. This should not be a cosmic thing that comes out of left field. Right now, buyers are paying more for a house than technically what it's worth or what the comps are technically dictating, because if you don't buy it for $360 as a finance buyer, a cash buyer is coming in and buying it right now for $360. I know this is not fun stuff to talk about. It's really not, but be prepared to pay above list price. Now here's the next one. This is a big one. You ready? If you're a financed buyer, then there's going to be an appraisal on the property. So let's use my example of $350. So you want to purchase a house that was listed for $350,000. But your experienced realtor has already told you that there are offers on that exact same property from cash buyers for $360. Again, daunting, right? How can we position you in a way to beat out a cash buyer? Well, first and foremost, you gotta be okay with paying above list price and possibly above what the comps are saying. So I'm gonna tell you, I think that we need to come in around $361. And here's the kicker. Get ready to write the notes. This is the kicker. Be willing to pay above appraised value by a certain amount, not to exceed the new contract price of $361,000. What does that mean, Felicia? When I review the comps, I come to you and I tell you, well, the house is definitely worth $350. I think it could potentially appraise for $355. So now I'm giving you this number from my experience and the data that I'm looking at. I think it could possibly appraise for $355, but we wrote an offer for $361. If you waive that appraisal, if you're saying that I'm waiving the appraisal, essentially you're saying that even in the event that that house appraises for $355,000, that you, the buyer, is willing to pay an additional $6,000 not to exceed your offer price of $361 to that seller. You've technically now netted that seller $1,000 more than the cash buyer. Of course, you had to go outside your comfort zone with that and pay above appraised value. And trust me, I know the comments are gonna blow up down below and people are gonna be like, she's telling you to pay above appraised value. I'm sorry, that's what the market's dictating. That's not necessarily what I wanna be telling you, that's just what the market is dictating. So now let's take that a couple steps further, because I know that I can structure my offer in a way to net the seller about $1,000 more than the cash purchaser. That's a great start. But it may not be enough, because cash can also close in a matter of weeks. It's guaranteed. There is no appraisal. There's all these things. So we need to kind of rack and stack some other ideas. What are some other things that you can be doing to make yourself different? So again, in a seller's market, it is so important to layer it on as a finance buyer. We already talked about offering potentially above what the comps are saying the house is worth, paying above appraised value. What's something else that you could be doing in a seller's market? One of the big ones that I love telling my clients is be willing to accept the home in as is condition. That confuses many people, so let's talk about it. Now, does that necessarily mean that you are waiving your right to a home inspection? I'm waiting for answers. No, it does not mean that you're waiving your right to a home inspection. You as the consumer still have that right and still have that backing out point should anything cosmic come up on the home. So let's say that it's got major roof damage and there's been leaks and people find mold or what have you. You as the consumer still have the opportunity to walk away from that house free and clear. Okay, so you're not saying that you are negating having a home inspection. What you are telling the seller is, hey man, or lady, I am not gonna ask you for a ton of repairs. There's been markets in the past where a buyer can add a litany of repairs. Be the seller for a minute. You're selling the house. Do you want to accept a financed buyer that may make me $1,000 more, but then may have a home inspection and ask me for $1,000 in repairs? You know, like, would you take $1,000 less and just close in 2 weeks? Again, how are you going to be different? So yes, seller, I'm actually going to accept the home in as-is condition. I'm not going to ask you to fix anything unless we've got something major that comes up. If something major comes up and you still don't want to walk away from the house, you may be able to go back to the seller and say, hey, I said as-is condition, I really still want this house. Is there any way you could fix this? Of course, there's a renegotiation point there. Another huge thing that's happening, and this is going to be a really big one, is that in a seller's market, there's many people that are selling their home right now for a good chunk of profit. And they're actually wanting to upgrade to a larger home. Being a seller is exciting, but what they're doing is they're putting themselves in a secondary boat and they're having to now be a buyer. And they need time because they know on the buy side, it's gonna take a little bit of time to get that offer accepted. It's not gonna happen very quickly. So many sellers are actually asking upfront for what's called a rent back situation. Essentially, they want to sell their home but remain in their home, so now they don't have to move twice, whether that's into an apartment or an Airbnb, move all their assets, while they now scramble to go try to find a house. And oh yeah, I'm thinking that's gonna take me a couple months. I'll start looking when we're in escrow, but it's gonna take me a couple months. This is leverage. This is an opportunity to give a seller something that means so much to them, and it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with purchase price, okay? So the seller wants to remain in the home 2 months after close of escrow, so they have the time to go and shop for another property, or maybe move. There may be a lot of different reasons for this, but they want to remain in the home. Of course, there's liability that we can go through, and this could be an entirely different YouTube. Again, I'm sure the comments are gonna go crazy with people saying, don't do this. Hey, seller's market, what do you need to do to get your offer accepted during these low interest rates? Keep your eye on the prize, people. It's gonna be short-term pain for long-term gain. I almost said that right on the first try, darn it. Anyways, so do you have the ability to say yes to a rent back? If you've got somebody that you can stay with, or you're already renting and you can just extend for another month, I would highly suggest that you think about doing that so that the seller now is going to be netting $1,000 more. You're going to accept the home in as-is condition. On top of that, I'm going to allow you to stay in the property until you need. Now, it's always going to be up to the buyer, who now in that situation would actually be the owner. Now you're putting yourself in a landlord position, right? So the buyer's becoming the owner / landlord, the seller becomes the tenant. It's kind of an interesting situation there, and trust me, there's tons of documentation that you'll put in place for this to include security deposits. But here is the big one. If you made it to the end of this video, I'm really about to give you the biggest golden nuggets. So thank you for sticking around, and if this has been helpful already, please be sure that you're liking and commenting and subscribing and doing all the things, because here it is. I am getting offers accepted left and right for buyers when they not only are saying, yes, seller, you can stay in that home for that rent back period, but I'm also gonna let you stay there for free. Holy moly, I know that sucks to say as a buyer. I'm already paying you all this money. I'm doing as-is condition. I'm letting you stay in the house. I hope that I'm highlighting just how significant of a seller's market we are currently in. What a drought we're in the housing market. What huge supply and demand issues? Because yes, I know all of this sounds fairly aggressive, but at the end of the day, we're getting you into a home. And these are ways that I am getting my offers accepted left and right, okay? So being willing to pay above potentially appraised value, accepting the home in as-is conditions, saying yes to these rent backs, and the cherry on the cake, I'm gonna let you stay there for free. I hope that this video was full of information. Be sure to do all the things that I just asked for. Subscribe, like, comment, all of that good stuff. And remember, at the end of the day, who's your homegirl? I'm your homegirl.